Well, now that the Democratic National Convention is wrapped up, I'm joined by election analyst Luke Freedman from the US Study Centre at the University of Sydney. Luke Freedman, Barack Obama was under a lot of pressure not to appear too much of a rock star, to actually deliver some details and not just rhetoric and aspirations. Did he do it?
I think so. This was a very cautious speech, a well-delivered one, but a safe one. Ezra Klein of the Washington Post said, "This is the kind of speech you give when you think you're winning but don't want to rock the boat too much."
He really seemed to get off to a bit of a slow start, though.
He did. He sort of hit his stride more towards the end. I thought another huge theme here was the idea of the election as a choice, not a referendum on him. And there's a very specific reason for that. When you look at polls of Obama against a generic Republican candidate, he's not doing so well. When you actually have a choice between him and Mitt Romney, then he looks a lot better, and this is what he wants the election to be.
The Republicans have been telling voters that there's something wrong with the job the president has been doing if the best they've felt about him was the day that they elected him 4 years ago. Do you think Barack Obama managed to lay out a case now about why voters should stick with him?
It was a very effective line of attack by the Republicans, and one the Democrats were slow to respond to. I think he did a good job of referencing the specific policies that will fire up his base here. He talked about immigration, he talked about ending don't ask, don't tell in healthcare. But overall, he wasn't trying to recreate that excitement to get them to come out to vote again. He was saying it was a more intellectual argument. This is a slow-moving process. Change is gradual, and we're on the right path, so let's not change now.
In fact, he even said at one point that he has changed, and after all, he is president now, and he was talking about the difficulties of that job and the responsibilities that entails. I guess trying to curb some of those, perhaps, expectations, those highly unrealistic expectations of how he could change America.
Exactly. There were very high expectations when he took office. A lot of that self-created, too. And here was a much more cautious speech. There wasn't even a lot about what you would do to address the job situation right here, right now. It was much more long-term, getting more teachers, making university more affordable. But he was looking about 10 years down the road, so it was a very different kind of message than we saw in 2008.
It was interesting on that jobs expectation. He's talking about 1 million new manufacturing jobs, and he's taking credit for saving America's car industry, also taking credit for a lot of national security issues. Do you think it's unusual to hear a Democrat being so bold and so confident about their national security record, particularly when, before he was elected, people questioned whether he had much foreign experience?
This was supposed to be his weakness in 2008. He was hammered on, and Mitt Romney wrote a book, No Apologies, that was intended to undermine his credentials. But Obama has much higher ratings on international policy than he does on domestic, so he thinks this is an issue he can run on well. Although, I mean, this election, more than almost any other, is going to be decided on domestic issues.
A final question, Luke Freedman. We saw after the Republican National Convention Mitt Romney not get much of a bounce in the polls as a result of this. The polls are showing that this race is still neck and neck. Do you think that is going to change after Barack Obama's speech?
I thought the Democratic Convention as a whole, not just Obama's speech, was better than the Republicans. In this hyper-partisan era, though, it's very tough to get much of a bounce coming out of a convention. People are just very set in their ways. But if he does get a few points, and I expect him to get at least as much as Romney, if not more, then in an election where the polls haven't changed much, that could be all it takes to carry him through until November.
All right, Luke Freedman, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.